Hey everybody, it's Val from Autistic Interpretations. I'm here for another Q&A. Today's question is, how do we decide when we're going to tell Jessica things? So sharing information with Jessica can be very tricky, and it always has been. Whether the news is good news, if it's bad news, if it's exciting news, if it's dreadful, whatever, you always have to take time to evaluate and make decisions on when to tell her something. She's better now with maturity. She's better than it used to be. It used to be we had to be more careful with more things that we told her. Now at her age, she's more mature and we're able to tell her things without as much worry. Part of that's maturity, and part of it is she is on some medications for anxiety, and those have changed her life dramatically once we got her on the right doses of medications for anxiety. If there's something happy coming up that she's going to be so excited about, this is in the past. If we told her too soon, then we couldn't plan anything else, because if we planned anything else, then she felt like we weren't going to get to do the other thing. So she could only focus on one thing at a time. So only one thing on her agenda at the time. So if it was something positive, she really got a lot of anxiety from having to do things in between. So even if it was on the same day, we might wait until later in the day. If it was the same week, we might wait until later in the week. That does not include things like Disney World, which is like a big vacation that's far away. That kind of thing, we don't have to wait to tell her. We can tell her up front. There's an exception to that, though. If we're going to go camping is not her favorite vacation, but I like to camp. So sometimes we don't tell her when we're going camping too far ahead of time, because it can make her in a bad mood. She can kind of dwell on it and want to make alternate plans. Sometimes we don't tell her that part. One of the confusing things about when to tell somebody something that has someone who has anxiety and or other circumstances, the tricky thing is finding the right time to tell, not too soon, not too late. There are a few things that Jessica has so much anxiety about that we had to find that fine little window of time. And those things are going to the doctor, going to the dentist, and or haircut when we used to go get a haircut. So when Jessica has a medical appointment coming up, if we were to tell her too soon, we would have ongoing anxiety, unreasonable anxiety that can't be relieved, and it would just make life unpleasant for all of us. If I waited and sprung it on her right before we were leaving, if I said, hey, you've got an appointment, we're leaving, she was really upset about that. And so then you have a lot more uncontrolled anxiety, some irritation, anger going straight into the appointment. And for that reason, I do not wait until the last minute to tell her about those things. But sometimes just a day ahead, 2 days ahead, something like that, it is better timing. It gives me a little more time to try to give her some preparation. It gives her a little more time to adjust to the idea. Not that she does, but we have found that 1 to 2 day window is best for those types of appointments. Sometimes there are sad things that we choose to not tell Jessica about until the time is right, and there's no answer to when that time is. An example of that is during COVID, we lost a family member. I chose not to tell Jessica for a couple of months because at the time she was dealing with adjusting to isolation, adjusting to not being able to go places and having to wear a mask and being scared and afraid and all that. I felt like it wasn't the right time to tell her, so I didn't tell her for a couple of months. And the day I decided to tell her because she was already in a really bad mood and upset about something else that wasn't worthy of her mood. And so I just said, since you are acting this way, I'm going to tell you some other news. And part of it was a lesson in perspective. And then there's another person, an acquaintance that we lost during COVID, that I haven't told her about because she will be so devastated. And it's not somebody that she sees anymore, but she talks about the person and would like to see her, and I don't know when I'll tell her. I haven't decided when I'm going to tell her. And she'd work her way through it, but it's almost like there's this delicate place we're at in this recovery from all the trauma from what everybody's been through, and the timing is just not right. One of the major factors when we're deciding when to tell Jessica something is when we're going to have caregiver help. The reason for that is multi-purpose. The biggest reason is the well-being of everyone. So in our house, Jessica's well-being is not our everyday focus over everybody else. So everybody's well-being matters. And if I am not doing well, if I'm struggling, then Jessica's going to struggle. If I'm struggling, it's going to impact her. So everything needs to be in balance. For example, if there's something I need to tell her that I want her to know for next week, I'm not probably going to tell her Saturday or Sunday, because I'm the only one here. In theory, I would be the only one here to deal with the constant bombardment of questions, that reassurances needed, that kind of thing, which I'm human. Everybody thinks that I have this crazy amount of patience. I get worn down like everybody else. What happens besides having someone else for her to ask her constant repetitive questions to is you have a different perspective from a different person. You have different methods of dealing with it. You have different things to do. Like a caregiver can keep her busy doing extra things while I continue to do my work or whatever. That's a factor. When she's going to be where. If she was about to go spend the night with Nani and Granddad, I wouldn't tell her something that I know she's going to worry about, because then she'll worry them about it the whole time she's there. So there's just a balance that you have to find. And the truth is, there's no concrete answer to this question of when to tell or how do you decide to tell. I don't have a magic concrete formula. It's something that needs constant reevaluation, reassessment, weighing the pros and cons, weighing moods, also other things that crop up in the meantime. It's just an ever-evolving situation, and really you have to, in the end, go with your gut. But I think one of the keys is to trust your gut, and if your gut doesn't lead you right the first time, then just make a mental note. Remember, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try it a little different next time. Just keep that in mind. One of the things, I think the time that I had the most difficulty out of Jess for not telling her something ahead of time was a doctor's appointment. She really fussed about it, not knowing ahead of time. And in reality, I don't think that one was my fault. I think I didn't find out until like the day before the appointment that it was scheduled. I didn't schedule it. It just came up. So most of the time, there's not any real consequence to not telling her too far ahead of time. Other than if I waited till day of, then there's more of a consequence to that because she's still working through it at the time of the appointment. So that would be the most concrete thing I could tell you, is kind of take an inventory of how much time is going to be needed to make the adjustment from not knowing through the initial panic, severe anxiety, a little bit of anger, there's going to be a window of time. For Jess, if I could give her 24 hours, it's probably okay. If I give her 48 hours, we're going to have more anxiety, more dread, more fear, more anger for that extra 24 hours. Does that make sense? And sometimes it's like in the spur of the moment, I change my mind. I just, I'm thinking I'm not going to tell Jess something, and then something comes up that's worse or that's different or whatever, and it's like, okay, now is a really good time to just go ahead and get this over with. So say you've got something you're not going to tell, you're dreading telling, but then you find out something else that's going to be good news, that's going to be exciting. For example, with Jessica, if I was dreading telling her some news and I had decided I wasn't going to tell her, then suddenly she found out she was going to get to go to work and be a nurse for the day, I might tell her the other news that morning because she's going to be totally distracted the rest of the day, because she's so excited with something else that she's doing that, she can kind of process it in the background while she's doing this other thing that she's happy about. Does that make sense? The key points are: don't wait too long, don't tell too soon. You got to figure out that window of time, and then be flexible with your own decision. If some other opportunity comes up that you feel like, okay, I think this is the right time, go for it. Doesn't work, make a note, but it didn't work that time. And the other thing is spreading the love. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to accept help. It's okay, especially when, like in our situation, we have a paid caregiver. It's okay for us to work that into the big picture, so that the caregiver can help work us through all that, and that we're not all burned out by the whole thing. If this triggers a lot of questions in your own mind, put them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer more questions about this. What I always say to Hannah, and I don't always say it on video, like in the videos that I make, when I do Q&As or when I try to give advice, I try not to give advice. What I try to do always is relay our experience, because I'm only an expert on Jess. I'm not an expert on autism or anybody else's children. I'm an expert in our life. And so I like to relay our experience and let other people draw from it the little pieces that are helpful to them. So anyway, that's what I've tried to do here. So if you have specific questions you want to ask me, please feel free to put them in the comments below. If you like this video, if it's helped you, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. It helps us out when people subscribe. And if you want to make sure to not miss any videos, you can click the bell icon to get notifications when we post a video or go live. Thanks for watching. Bye.